Good evening, everybody. Honourable Minister, members of Parliament, councillors, distinguished guests. It gives me great pleasure to be with all of you today. I suppose, just as I start, I'm sure all of you would have looked at the DVD and what the various help that Kids of Macarthur Health Foundation have supported. There's just one other unit that the foundation proudly supports, and that is Auckland. Auckland, which is the Addison Mental Health Unit. Talking about mental health, well, it's a little bit different from physical health. Well, it's reasonably straightforward for someone, say, with very high temperatures to find the way to say a pediatrician or to a doctor and get some help. But with mental health, the route is much more convoluted, and we hardly get to see or get to hear things like these, where a child would say, "Mom, I've realized that lately I've been pretty angry and upset and irritable and sad. I've been cutting myself and have been wanting to die. I've been driving you crazy and not letting you or anyone else help me. I think it's time that you took me to see a child psychiatrist. And perhaps I need to be admitted to a mental health unit." We hardly ever get to see this. So the road to us is really much more convoluted, and kids often need to go through many different barriers, and families have to navigate a lot of myths that are quite prevalent in society, which may include that kids don't really get mentally ill, that parents are usually responsible, and that normal behavior is pathologized. Unfortunately, the kinds of kids that we see and treat and the families that we treat, none of these myths are really true. Perhaps there is some contribution that the society has to make, but really that is a little bit minor, in that these children and families do suffer quite a bit. I just thought I'd put up a quote about one of our parents of one of the kids that was recently on the unit, and just read it out to you. I thought my 16-year-old was a typical teenager. Was defiant, not listening to me, staying indoors, staying in her room for hours, being on Facebook all the time. It was not until I saw blood-stained tissues in her bin that I realized that something was seriously wrong. It took me many months to finally get her some help, and boy, I'm glad that I persisted. So this is an example of some of the things that families have to go through. So really, talking about mental health disorders, children and adolescents do suffer from quite significant mental illnesses, and they do differ from physical health disorders. They're in fact quite prevalent, up to 15%, largely unrecognized and untreated. The good bit is that the majority of them do really need only or community mental health support. So it's only with outpatient support that most do get better. But a very small percentage, or the most severely ill among them, would need to be hospitalized, and some of them, unfortunately, against their will as well. So what really causes, or what are the major risk factors that one deals with, or why do these things occur? Why do these illnesses occur? Various genetic influences play a major role. So if one looks at genes and the environment, genes play a major role, not necessarily transmitted from parents or from extended family, but also in their own genetic makeup. A lot of kids are genetically vulnerable. Then the whole range of environmental issues, which might include attachment, abuse and neglect, including sexual abuse, chaotic family environments. Drug and alcohol use plays a major part, as do bullying and peer pressure, and those children that also have other developmental disorders are more at risk to develop mental health disorders. So that's a little bit of an introduction to mental health. Speaking specifically about Auckland was a name kindly given to us by the local Aboriginal elders, which essentially means healing of the mind. Quite an apt name, although the pronunciation is quite difficult. We've just had 10 years of Auckland now, and it is a statewide unit. We get reference from all over the state, and also Canberra. So really, while it does serve the local population primarily, so we do get a majority of kids locally from MacArthur and Southern Highlands, they do also come from really quite a long distance. We admit about 120 to 130 kids a year, and initially about half of them do come into the unit involuntarily, but most of them within a few days do understand the need for treatment, and their status changes to voluntary. Very few of them could need involuntary treatment. Most of them are admitted for about 4 to 6 weeks, and as like I said, they're about usually between 11 and 17 years of age. What kind of illnesses do they have? Well, the major mental illnesses, schizophrenia, depression, bipolar disorder, they in fact do occur. Although traditionally adult disorders, they do occur in children. Also those with quite severe developmental disorders, in addition to mental health problems, those with intellectual disabilities, Asperger's syndrome, kind of autism, and these children are also predisposed to develop quite significant illnesses. But one of the most common reasons for admission is really a range of self-harm and suicidal ideation behaviors, which can occur in context of several different illnesses. And most of these adolescents, I'm sure all of you recognize, Campbelltown is also an area where there is significant social disadvantage as well, and we do often get a lot of children coming from families that may have quite significant interpersonal difficulties, conflict, pressures in them due to a variety of reasons. So what do we do once they enter hospital? Well, a majority of them do receive medication, not all of them. We do recognize that none will get better just by medication. If it were to be so easy that a pill would fix all problems, certainly not. We do recognize that we need to utilize the skills of a multidisciplinary team, and hence on the unit, the nurses, psychologists, social workers, the occupational therapists, the diversion therapists, teachers and doctors, all of us do work together to help these children and their families. And how do we do that? Well, if you visit a pediatric ward, you'll find most children in bed. The sickest of them would be in bed, but in a mental health unit, an adolescent mental health unit, unlikely. You hardly find them in bed, except if they're so ill, you'd hardly find them in bed. They need to be occupied, and they ought to be enriched with appropriate activities. And the emphasis is on a lot of clinical education, groups, sports and outings, and really involvement with the families every step of the way is critical. So they come out of the unit, there's some treatment, then they'll be discharged, and then the families would need to be equipped to help continue to support them, as will the community teams. Really the most specific sort of kinds of difficulties or behaviors are the self-harm, suicidal and suicidal behaviors, and also aggression. And they do represent manifestations of quite significant distress, quite significant emotional distress in these young people that don't have any other means to express that distress. To a very lesser extent, they may be sort of almost normal teenage manifestations, but in the context of mental illness, they do become significantly entrenched and quite extreme, and sometimes very, very hard to change. And that means that these behaviors need interventions that are beyond the traditional sort of medication and therapy approaches, and therefore they need to be able to practice and develop a range of alternate distress tolerance strategies. They need to do that in a safe place, and need to be able to experience different alternate sensory sort of soothing experiences, music, art, and they need to practice them so that they can continue beyond. So in addition to those, they also need to have access to sport for them to practice many different things. And sports and games have an exercise do play a major part. They help in limiting the side effects of medication. Some of the antipsychotic medications, they do. Exercise is a good antidepressant by itself, helps with their fitness, and also would help in both emotional and physical release of pent-up emotions. And we do sort of almost prescribe it as another component after discharge. So what we do with all these kids, does it really work? Yes, it does. There is very good evidence to show that they do work, and that these children and adolescents are able to try these strategies once they leave hospital and continue them at home. and the vast majority of them do maintain their improvement, and thankfully a career in adult mental health is successfully prevented, and that really is what keeps the team at Auckland going. And that is further emphasized by some of the feedback we received from our kids. I'll just put up a couple of them for want of time. I'll just read through them. One is, I thought I was alone, that others did not suffer as much as I did, and that no one loved me. Another young person wrote, when they left hospital, killing myself was the only option. But after Auckland, I have a whole heap of alternate strategies to beat my depression. So it is pretty powerful, and while there is a lot of adversity, and while there's a lot of difficulty that these families face, we do sort of function along, and I'll just quickly read through my favorite quote. According to the theory of aerodynamics, as may be readily demonstrated by lab tests and wind tunnel experiments, the bumblebee is unable to fly. This is because the size, the weight, and the shape of its body in relation to total wingspan makes flying impossible. So law of physics, the bee can't fly, but the bumblebee, being ignorant of these profound scientific truths, goes ahead and flies anyway and manages to make a little honey every day. And that's what we strive to do. So our next bit of honey, or our next project, is the creation of a sensory room, which is a multi-sensory environment which allows young people to soothe, regulate their emotions while feeling extremely stressed, anxious, and vulnerable in the context of mental illness. They do this through sensory stimuli and using equipment through various modalities. And we envisage that a sensory room will look something like that, and a copy of that, I guess, is with you as well. So is it going to be, what practical use is it going to provide? Well, it will allow the kids at Auckland to develop and practice skills in stress management, emotional regulation, and distraction, and offer viable alternates to those distressing expressions of self-harm, including cutting or burning, and aggression, and to continue these skills once they are discharged from Auckland. And these are, I suppose, some of the photos of some of the equipment. And I'm here today representing my team, together with the kids and the families that we look after. Thank you for your kind attention, and do hope that all of you will have a wonderful time. Thank you so much.